State House Road there. It goes up to State House, and that is where we'll have that particular function. The President will receive the gun carriage bearing the casket that is holding the body of the late President, Mwai Kibaki, and then we'll have the ceremony there. After that, it will come down to processional way, all the way to Kenyatta Avenue, and this is the Kenyatta Avenue roundabout down to Uhuru Highway, and Haile Selassie roundabout to Uhuru Highway, and we down to Bunyala roundabout, then we go up, that is the Aerodrome Road to Nyayo National Stadium. So if you are applying that route this morning, be advised that you might be inconvenienced, so make sure you take cognizance of that. That is happening this morning. So this is where everything is being, of course, carried out from Nyayo National Stadium. That will be the ultimate place where the record mass will be held this morning. I'm holding court with Kent Libisu, who is a former chair of ICDC, that is Industrial Commerce Development Corporation, and also the former chair of Vision 2030, and not the former chair, but the Director General of Vision 2030. This is Professor Gituro Wainaina, who is currently the chair of Kenya School of Government. I'm waiting for Koigi Omere to join us, and we still has not really had his blanket victory. So as soon as we have him, if you'll give us also a rich seam of history from him, a veteran journalist along the way. Farah Maalim will be joining us at 8 o'clock. Today also is a big day for the Muslim brothers, where they're observing their prayers, and that will take precedence for him as well. So much later with Farah Maalim. All right, so he made his money.
He made money.
He made his money in a big way.
Yeah, but and if you, and I think everybody has been watching. I think one of the things which is coming from the last mile, people made money. Even the last mile, the people in Boda in Eldoret, any part of this country, that opportunity. So that's the second thing I would really share with us Kenyans, that the ERS and Kenya, the current head of public service, was actually in Treasury then. And the third thing, which I do remember, and I really, by the way, Diba, in my view, I don't think Kibaki is dead. He's dead physically, but his wisdom, his knowledge, it's with us forever, and to make us grow as a country. The third thing was the Constitution 2010, which was passed in 2010. When I reflect back, that is something really, really we can attribute to him. For those who are familiar, the Constitution we got in 1963 was done out at Lancaster House. But here we were as Kenyans, giving our own destiny. And that's defined who he was. He defined, I must have a base to move this country forward. And notice, very interesting, very unselfish. He was actually leaving office, but he wanted to leave a country stronger. And I think I want to make one point clear. I think people, I don't know the definition of hands-off. Because the way we take hands-off is like, I don't want to dirty myself. But I can tell you that, gentleman, he really dirtied himself in terms of giving us direction. He did. And one thing I noticed there, Diba, I used to, my other life I worked with a development partner, and the Moise regime. You went to any office of a PS or a minister, there was a radio and a TV. I remember one time we went for a meeting, and when he came, the driver was not there. The PS had been fired. In his tenure, he actually went out to the office, and there were no TVs or radio, because we are given the responsibility to learn whatever you had been given. And that's what I don't think he was ourselves. And the other thing is, I don't come and I'm shouting there, I'm spending a whole 1 hour at the airport. giving us. No, work has to be done.
Work has to be done.
And I wish Engineer Kamau, he told me the story, how 3 times they went to him and say, there's this highway you have done, fantastic highway, from Nairobi to Thika, and we'd like it to be named after you. And Engineer Kamau, a brilliant engineer, live out there. I had opportunity to teach him grade. And Kibaki will say no. So he sort of sent Nico Anjohi, who was a PA. He said, what is it? I said, no. Then he said, we know where that road comes from and where it goes. And he refused it to be named after him. And I think to me, that gives a direction of, I'm here to serve. I'm here to give people opportunities to be better than they are. And that's what he gave us. So in the vision, interesting, because I looked at even today, I was telling
maybe before you even dig deeper into the vision, do you think maybe that he has passed on right now and he didn't want to be that road to be named after him? Should we in his honor then, posthumously?
I don't think so.
Name it after him, or this?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because he was very clear, I don't want it. If anything would honor him, and I'm thinking very seriously, I think it's something we probably could have an institution like Kibaki Business School or Kibaki School of Economics. To me, that would be forever.
Forever. All right.
And I was listening to, and Konsa gives a good example. We have a university coming in Konsa where it's being supported by Korean. Let's name Kibaki School of Economics. We'll remember him forever.
Fantastic. Let me also rope in Kent on this as well, because yes, now you came from Finland. President Kibaki had tapped you to come and be the chair of ICDC at the end of the day. Now you were working with him. You interacted with him intimately. What Professor Gituro Wanaina is alluding to, a man who's really hands-off. In your own space, do you think you had enough room to swing your cat as well, just so to speak, without any interference at the end?
Dubala, I like your phrases. They are very good phrases, to swing your cat. Let me just add on to what Professor has said. There was a time we traveled to Kakamega, the late president, and Masinde Muliro University had gotten a charter. So the Vice Chancellor stood and gave a speech, and he really went on and praised the president and thanked him. And in his conclusion, he said that we would be very honored, Your Excellency, if you can be the Chancellor of the university. After a very long motivation speech, so when the president stood, he said, I've heard you. I thank you for recognizing and that. However, as you are aware, my policy is that the chancellors of universities should not be the president or politicians. Therefore, I'm sorry, I cannot accept your offer. That caught everybody off guard, because they had really expected that it was obvious. The president would just say, yes, I'll be the chancellor. He said no. He was a man of very few words, and I think in terms, when I came from a very competitive economy like Finland, which has been the world's most competitive economy for years, coming to Kenya, what President Kibaki did, and Kenyans really have to recognize, he made the public service very attractive. For the first time, people left lucrative private sector jobs to go to public service. If you entered the office of a senior director in government, it matched like a private sector office. Good furniture, good everything. Because he wanted to attract competitive Kenyans to work there. That is, I think, one of his greatest contributions. He made us proud of visiting even government offices. I remember when my friend Motai Kagwe was made a CS, and I went to his office. His reception was empty. There were no people, and I asked him, I said, how come? He said, people don't hang here. we just work. People don't work here anymore. Government offices were really places to work. So I can tell you that the competitiveness, and as a head of a parastatal, we had this performance contracting.
Yes.
And I can tell you, if there's any nightmare, anybody who worked in a government agency, parastatal, was when you had to submit what you have achieved over the financial year. Because that was vetted, you were ranked, and the president himself presided over.
Exactly. He never missed that.
He never missed, and he wanted to know which are best performing organizations and which were worst performing. So you can imagine facing the president and you're not performing well. And that psychologically he made you realize why you are there. You are there to work. On that performance contracting, I would like to say one thing, which was in fact the most difficult, because our organization, ICDC, was ranked always very well in terms of performance. However, there was one very challenging, and it had the highest score. It was the new innovation.
The new innovation?
Yes. So what have you done this year differently to improve the organization that you didn't do last year?
Excuse me.
You didn't do last year. Now you can imagine, Debal, you've thought you have perfected an organization, and your highest scoring is going to come to what innovation have you introduced. So the Kibaki's leadership was that we cannot be comfortable with status quo. We must always bring something new on the table. And I can tell you that was very challenging for all of us. Now, coming to the issue of pending bills, the president was very clear, and I think Professor has said. He said the government's business is not to impoverish its partners. So if you did business with the government, you will get paid. And the president got very angry when he heard that there were pending bills that had not been paid. So in that regard, he made the economy grow because people did business comfortably with government. And that is a very crucial thing moving forward, that the government should not be a stumbling block to businesses. It should be a stimulus. Now coming to the issue of Kibaki was not really a politician.
Let's not even focus on the politician, and we'll gravitate into that in a moment. But I just want to reflect back now. We had last month, just the World Happiness Index ranking, coming out. And Finland is, still patching up there on the top as #1. But even when Kibaki came into power, Kenya was also rated amongst, one of the world's happiest people. Right? And you came from Finland with that happiness as well to just be in this country. You can tell us how, was it because now we had a new transition into the government and people were very optimistic and they're saying, oh my, we have a new leash of life, we're starting from a clean slate, away with corruption, away with, domineering figures, during those previous times as well. Now we'll have a clean slate to start with. We are happy. That sense of happiness that was almost palpable. How did you experience it?
Yes.
And you being from Finland,
yes.
Make us a comparison. Are they all smiley faces all the time?
Not you.
No.
Of course, it was our family. Yes.
Now, in fact, when I saw that Finland was at the top this year, and Kenya was ranked very low in terms of happiness.
Yes, indeed.
I remember 2008. I was invited to Istanbul, and I was nominated to be inducted in the Hall of Fame for leadership.
Oh, really?
Global, 6 people in the world
6 people in the world?
Yeah, I receive it every year. And I was invited.
You're the only Kenyan?
Yeah, African actually.
African?
Yeah, I was the only African.
Congratulations.
For that year. So when I went to receive it, obviously I informed my bosses, my peers, Nalo and my minister and our boss, Ambassador Mdaura, that I was receiving this because I didn't want them to read in the newspaper where that this had happened. So when I went to receive this award, in my acceptance speech, I was so inspired by what President Kibaki had done in the country. In my acceptance speech, I dedicated this award to the people of Kenya and to our president.
Yes.
But I also said one thing, which was that today Kenya is the most hopeful country in the world because we were so inspired and we were so driven to be successful at that particular time. So my award was fitting in very well with what was happening in the country. Now, I think Kenyans got disillusioned because with that kind of economic growth and hopeful for freedom of expression, freedom of space, respect for the rule of law and everything else, when the direction changed, Kenyans became disillusioned. So when you say Kenyans are the least happiest people, is I think Kenyans have so many unmet and unfulfilled wishes, which were already so hopeful during the Kibaki era. So I think that is where we need to go back to the drawing table and say, how do we involve the public, the Kenyan people, into our vision of our country? Kibaki really involved us in the vision. He said, I want Kenya to move in agricultural sector. You can see we are going forward. So I think that public participation, Kibaki was very good at public participation. And he made Kenyans believe that paying tax was a good thing. For the first time in our history, we were proud to pay tax because Kibaki made us believe that for us to be self-governed as a country, we need to pay taxes. So I think that simplicity of the president, I can tell you on terms of simplicity, we had a state dinner for East African heads of state. And the president at KICC, he invited us. And there is one East African head of state who is famous for coming late. And he came late when the dinner was already going on. So he arrived and in usual style, we shall not mention, but he came late. As soon as he was being served by his food, our president had finished his dinner, he stood up, and obviously when the president stands up, the function is over. There was not a single speech, there was nothing. And people were asking each other, why did we come here? He brought the heads of state for dinner. Yeah, but he was not fond of speeches, so he didn't want people to talk. And I saw his aides going and trying to prod him that to say this. And he said, no, let's eat, finish. So the late president was actually found flat-footed because our president was leaving, so he also had to leave. But that was his style. His style was very precise. Yes. Short speeches and to the point. And I can tell you the most agonizing thing was having an appointment with President Kibaki if you are not prepared. If you're not prepared. Absolutely. If you're not prepared, it's painful.
Do your homework.
Because he's a man who doesn't talk. He's listening to you. And you can go on and say those things, and at the end of it, he tells you, you've said nothing. Why did you come here?
Really?
No, he was painful to deal with him. You had to have your facts right. What do you want to tell him? And if he's not interested, he will just tell you that is rubbish. Yeah. Straight to your face. So,
but not with the same verbiage, rubbish, of course.
No, he will not. He will tell you that you haven't said anything.
Not in those exact words.
He may tell you ulikuja kusema nini.
Yes, exactly.
And if he asks you that, it's painful.
Yeah.
to waste the president's time. Secondly, as I said earlier, the president vetted every presidential appointee. So he gave you the job. So you are directly employed by the president. And we felt that if a president employs you, you cannot let him down.
Indeed, indeed.
And that is the pressure. In fact, if you talk to doctors at Nairobi Hospital, senior civil servants, it was very common for them to go in for, to rest for burnout. Kibaki pushed civil servants hard. They worked long hours to deliver because you had to bring some results. And that is what made this country. So people may have thought he was laid back, easy, but I can tell you, if there is a president who has ever pushed Kenyans, it was Kibaki. And
now, the metric that you used as well, when you're looking at the key performance indicators, you had the economic delivery unit.
Yes.
So this is where we could see who is performing and who is not really performing, and of course also aligning that to the performance contract at the end of the day.
Yes.
When we talk about that EDI or EDU, as it were, the economic delivery unit, how then did it also inform who is working, who is not, and how then heads will roll, so that you don't just come to the office and you peg your thought or you peg your court, or the back seat. I think the way the President Kibaki worked, you set a budget. You set a budget
at the beginning, and you say, this is our budget, this is how we want to deploy the funds, and these funds will contribute nationally in the following way. So you set a budget. You will be given the funds for what you have asked for. Now, the challenge is, have you achieved what you set out to achieve? If there is a deviation, you had to justify that deviation. So you did not need anybody else to drive you, because at the end of it, when we go to performance contracting, you are going to be reviewed. You're going to be reviewed. And we had... That was the measure.
That was the measure.
And we had what we call the State Corporations Advisory SCOOC. SCAC. Yes. So SCAC was very well resourced with the brilliant minds of Kenyans.
Yes.
Guys who understood how to evaluate performance of parastatals. Some, they could even say, this one does not have value, we recommend it be shut down. So you are constantly challenged to perform through your performance contracting and the review by SCAC. And these reviews were done continuously. So there was
and it's right, because I was on the other side of the vision.
Yes.
And we actually used to evaluate what was happening.
Yeah.
And I think my brother is spot on. Kibaki never missed two things. He never missed when the performance contracting, the signing,
never,
and then the results.
Yes.
He never missed when companies were declaring how much tax they are paying to the government.
Yes.
He never missed those two. And it was interesting, as my brother saying, he was quiet but tough. But the thing is, you'd actually not miss his meeting because you knew somewhere he would say something, you'll make everybody laugh.
Yes.
And I remember one time we were at Kibira. I think we are launching low-income houses. And you know how you improvise, you have the flag put up. And this thing decides to fall. The flag, the pole with the flag. Yes. And you could see the administration police frankly learning to bring it up. You know, he made it easier, but also focus in terms of this. So I think to come what you're saying, because it was driven by Dreka. Dreka is one of the gurus in management. And Dreka said, if it's not measured, it's not done. That was brief. And,
what is not measured cannot be managed.
Exactly. And Dubai then was the PS in charge of that, was very strong on that. So that was the whole idea of performance contracting. And it was not just standard. You get actually, my brother, if you remember, people could come with suitcases because you needed pictures. You say a road has been constructed, let's see it. So that kept on our toes. And I think it's a good way of learning any institution. The private sector, we do that in the private sector.
Before you go to the private sector, because I like also when you rope in, SCAC in this, because Kibaki was somebody who also valued, governance, and especially corporate governance. Correct. And looking at the private sector, you have, the corporate governance codes that is being streamlined even right now. And if you flip to the government, where you cannot really apply the corporate governance code, you have the Mwongozo code. Yeah. And all this is in an effort to enhance governance, as it is right now. Would you talk to us about how also SCAC, what you are actually bringing, was streamlining the Mwongozo code so that public officers also could toe the line as far as governance is concerned? Issues of meritocracy, issues of board management as well at the end of the day. And I know also you are a stalwart of corporate governance at the end of the day.
Correct. And I think something before you even come to Mwongozo, I pointed earlier on, and that process, you see it with even with the most developed economies, where you actually, I would say, you have people who are practical and they're intellectual. And he had NESC, which is a think tank. Yes. Then he had delivery board, and then the secretariat. That's a typical private sector model. Totally. It is. Yes. And therefore, you have a board here, and the secretariat is responsible in terms of management. And therefore, in terms of grading that you're performing, and therefore brings a governance in it, it was very clear the board was in charge. I'm talking now from experience of the Vision 2030. And the board would actually say, well, we are sorry, you're not performing. Whether you had more Mwongozo or not, that directed us in what to do. Now, come to government, and this is what my brother is saying here. There was opportunity for you to do what you are good at. There was no micromanaging. And I can tell you the best Mwongozo, the best leadership is where you don't have micromanaging the staff. And that's what him. And I said earlier on, the government is not there not to, it's make people grow, opportunity. And therefore what we found, it's sad because when you look back and reflect, we were on a trajectory. And remember Mohamed Nyayo, now the chair of the central bank, he was very clear. The plane has taken off. It's not coming down. We're on the trajectory. That's what we did. And the issue of Mwongozo, I can tell you because of that self-assessment, that self of Mwongozo, SCAC, with our brother who passed on, who was, as his passing, was the head of the public service, Kirogo. They were very clear. These are...
That was Stephen Kirogo.
Yes.
Steve. Yeah.
Steve, yes. These are the targets. At the end of the day, did you achieve the targets? To me, that was the best Mwongozo. Yes. And you tell my brother in ICDC, you had told that you do this, you have come down. And something he pointed out, and it's still there today. I can tell you I've just signed for this financial, the performance contract, is the innovation. Innovation. So, and even perhaps Mwongozo, I think Mwongozo even came a bit after he had left office. A good document, but I think, as I've said before, it's the implementation of it. Let me also point something happiness he was talking about. Happiness is what I talked earlier on, that there was money in the pocket. And it is through his tenure, after ERS, then Nyang was a minister for planning and treasury. We hit above 7% GDP. 7% because of that ERS. And the good thing is that translated into money in your pocket. You know, there's somewhere in the standard, and it says number of Kenyans wealth up as 10 added to the billionaire list. And what is coming out, unfortunately, the gap between the Kenyans rich and poor continue to widen amid raging COVID protocols or pandemic. If you look at our gene coefficient, which is a measure of how you're doing, it's almost 4.49. The more you're nearing 1, the more serious you're actually getting, perhaps getting to thinking like food riots. But when you're 0, you're doing well.
You're doing well.
Each time, we're doing 0.3. 0.3.
So almost gravitating to zero.
Exactly.
Okay.
Saying you there's actually Diba and Wainaina, you're Mustafa. And therefore, which translates that there was money circulating within the economy.
I will ask you again, then why then do we have not particular, the geo coefficient being the metrics that we could use to give us a clear picture of where the economy is? Because also from the current regime, what we've been told is the gross domestic product that is, the metrics that is giving a good indicator of the economy.
GDP.
Then you wonder, yes, how does it translate? Because people have been asking, okay, the trajectory seems to be going higher and higher, but yet the money, mfukoni, it's not there.
You're right.
And should the geo coefficient maybe should be the prime? We should hold the government accountable and tell us, okay, this is the GDP, yes, thank you very much. What about the geo coefficient?
Spot on, Idiba. The GDP, if you unpack it, you probably find areas that can be improved in. And that's why we are moving now to measure of happiness. That's what we're moving. GDP, gross numbers, it's what you're generating within the country in terms of service, in terms of goods and all that.
Yes.
As a country. That could be only be perhaps is being produced by 5 of us. The rest, you're doing nothing.
The billionaires that we're talking about.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you need to go deeper and say, fine. Then as we are saying that our GDP is 8 or whatever %, then how is the distribution? And that's when the gene coefficient comes in. There's also other issues.
Before you go to the other issue, I can see the preps there at the Nyayo National Stadium. Just to prime our viewers on what is happening currently, we are getting pictures there from Nyayo National Stadium, where you can see the military personnel. They're doing the final laps there, just in preparation of receiving the president, Mwai Kibaki, who will be having a requiem mass today there. The requiem mass will be held in honor of him, and that will be presided over by the Catholic archbishops, and of course the laity and the dignitaries are supposed to be sitting by 8 o'clock, with just a few minutes past 7 o'clock there. I can see it's 20 to 8 o'clock. And that's when the program begins, that everyone should be seated by then. And this is just pictures there of the activities that is around Mwai Kibaki. You can see those quintessential, I saw those, quintessential hats there of the then provincial commissioners. Now we can say the regional even commissioners as well. And this is Lee Funeral Home. Remember, this is the third time in the country's history that the Kenya Defense Forces is according a full military and civilian honors to a national leader after Kibaki. Kibaki's two predecessors, I should say, founding President Jomo Kenyatta in 1978 and Daniel Arap Moi in February 2020. And this has been the activity since Monday, where the gun carriage carrying the body of late President Kibaki has been leaving Lee Funeral Home, going to Parliament building, where every person, every Kenyan was given a handy opportunity to observe the body of the late president. And that wound up on Wednesday. And yesterday was a quiet day. He just remained at Lee Funeral Home, where we can see that particular Humvee right now he's stationed, where I believe that particular Humvee will be carrying the body of President Mwai, the casket that will be carrying the body of late President Mwai Kibaki. Then it will make its way to State House today, and the same military honors will be accorded to him, where also he took a board in that particular house as well. So Kibaki also is will be the sixth state funeral since independence. Remember, the others that have been accorded state funeral is the late Vice President Kijana Wamalwa, also Nobel Peace Prize laureate Wangari Maathai, the former First Lady Lucy Kibaki, and the second President Mwai Kibaki. The first was for the founding president on August the 31st, 1978, followed by former Vice President Kijana Wamalwa on September the 6th, 2003, and Nobel Peace Prize laureate Wangari Maathai on October the 7th, that is 2011. The first president of Kenya, that is President Jomo Kenyatta, was accorded 21 gun salutes. Today it will be 19 gun salutes for President Mwai Kibaki. You might ask why. By then we had the president dying in office. That was President Jomo Kenyatta, and that's why he's got the full military gun salute. And today is 19 because he's not the sitting president currently who has died in office, and that's why. So we shall have that particular occasion to see these rituals that is according to the third commander-in-chief, the late President Mwai Kibaki. And that, as I've said, is a formation of a KDF, all of them really coming together today, Kenya Army, the Kenya Navy, and the Kenya Air Force. That will be led by Brigadier Jeff Nyaga, who is a rank above them. And we eagerly wait to see also that pomp and color being accorded to the late President Mwai Kibaki. You can see an aerial view there of Kenyatta Avenue. There is also where the procession will be. When he goes to State House, it will take the processional way down to Kenyatta Avenue and down to also Uhuru Highway and Bunyala roundabout. Our reporter Ken Mijungu will be stationed there and we'll be able to aptly capture that as well. Valley Road looks deserted, just few, of course, motorists on that particular road, but as soon as the procession begins with that particular Humvee, I believe that will be carrying the body, or maybe it could be also the gun carriage as it has been the custom since Monday. Then that road will be deserted to now just give honor to President Mwai Kibaki. As you can see now, National Stadium, also citizens are filling up the stadium right now. Everyone is invited at the now National Stadium, and we can see preparations of course, living heightened there previously building up to this occasion today. And we expect dignitaries from various countries to be here. Cyril Ramaphosa, President of South Africa, will be in attendance. Also the former President of Malawi, Joyce Banda, also rejoining. We have the President also of Ethiopia, Zewde, also will be also in attendance today, amongst other dignitaries and members of the diplomatic corps as well, and the top officials from government. Today is a big day. We give our respect to the humble servant of the country, epitome of servant leadership, we should say, Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki, who brought happiness to Kenyans during his tenure, as we're discussing here with our panelist. This is Dr. Professor Gituro Wanaina, who is the current chair of Kenya School of Government and also the former Director General of Kenya Vision 2030, and Kent Libisu, who is a former Chair of Industrial Commerce Development Corporation, ICDC. As I mentioned earlier, President Kibaki was keen that in his engine that will now make the cog of that particular economic wheel rotate faster and smoothly. He wanted keen minds, sharp minds to really run that particular organization. It didn't matter if you're an old coot or you're a young person. He didn't care a fig about that. All he wanted was people with the intellectual capacity and provenance to actually be on those particular seats. Kent, I think we hadn't cleared up with Professor Gituro Wanaina, so that we can go back to Kent as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Tiba.
You are on the other issues.
We're on the GDP.
We're on GDP, then I stopped you on the other issues. I want to hear on the other issues.
I did appreciate even how we are jarring with what is happening and us being in the studio here.
Sure.
Very, very, very important. And even before I come there's something else I liked, and I was so happy listening to him talk, is his pronunciation of words. You know, he had this accent you liked.
But they will say, that particular generation had the benefit of being taught by the British. What was I normally hear guys really quoting the mathematician. Carrie Francis. Yes. Everyone say, I was taught by the Carrie Francis, mathematics, Carrie Francis.
No, he has fantastic accent. And that's something you look forward and you could see the interact. I think we had that cohort, it's good to mention that at least even in the way they had the silver tongues. They were very
the glib tongue that they had, the silver tongue, very eloquent when they speak with a particular accent. And during that particular time, we know we are being colonized. Many of them also schooled, away from the country. In a way, they had confidence even in their youthful ages. Yeah, you listen to some of the speeches even right now. Yeah. What they were doing in the August House, in comparison to the debates that we do have now, there's no measuring. There's no even keel completely, right?
Correct. And I think you're spot on. I didn't want to summarize. If you really want to show whether the economy was growing, GDP is great. But you need to unpack it. And the best way, and I think, as I pointed out, I think I won't label Kibaki as an economist. He was billed an economist, pragmatic, he knew what to be done. Look at the difference between the rich and the poor. That's it. And I'm giving figures here. During that time, there was more wealth in the people. And he never talked about reducing poverty. He was very clear. How do we move as a country to create wealth? And it's a whole difference. It's two worlds.
Was it during his tenure when we had the poverty? No, the Poverty Reduction Commission.
But that was
that was under?
That was a World Bank.
It was one World Bank.
Poverty Reduction Strategy paper. PRIS.
But we had a commission. We had a commission. No, we did. I remember. If it was not a commission, there was
a strategy, poverty reduction strategy paper.
But who was actually
World Bank?
It was a World Bank.
No. I'm very certain that we had a poverty reduction. It is not really a commission. And I used to wonder.
I was involved in it.
You were involved in it. Okay.
I was involved in drafting it, and I remember we were at Kenya School of Monetary Studies, and we were trying to what will jump this economy. And then he came and said, no. Let's look. We are really depressed as a country in terms of people are not really managing to meet their daily life. How do we then bring an economic stimulus? That's why the ERS came in. PRSP was almost like the structural adjustment.
Okay.
It's like what is happening now with the enhancement program we're having with the IMF.
So it was just a flip of the World Bank's structural adjustment program.
Correct.
Now you have the P. So it's just drop the S, add the P.
Yeah. So when you talk about GDP, and I think I want to make it clear, bring it down to the happiness. And that's why Finland, Sweden, New Zealand are among the happiest places to be in. And that's why Sweden today, they pay about 65% as taxes. But they're happy because they can see what is being done.
Indeed.
There's the man during his time, and Amos Kimunya perhaps understands this more than anybody else because he was the doctor of finance. And this is a person that was very clear in our time, we can only develop if we pay our taxes. And the way Waweru, then at Kenya Revenue Authority, managed that, I think that time Kenya Revenue Authority was Kenya Revenue Services.
No, it's moving to Kenya Revenue Services.
It was then.
It was then?
Yes.
Then it went to authority?
Yes.
Really?
To me, it was service then. Because it was serving.
Or to you, it was service?
It's a service. And let me give this narrative because it translates to everybody in this country. If your business was not doing well, they were very clear. We are in it. We are going to work with you and see how we can improve it. It's not a question, I'm with the hammer here, you must pay. We all struggle in our businesses. But how do I come in as Kenya Revenue, then services, and bring you up so you can pay your taxes? That came because he knew that if we continue borrowing, it translates into us getting to debt, which we are now, as you know in that. So to me, that's something, he looked at that sector, he said, we can only develop this country if we pay our taxes. And we could see what the taxes meant.
Indeed.
In terms of roads, and I'll quote this one, Professor Makawiti, who passed on, was then Vice Chancellor at Maseno University.
Professor, sorry, I missed that.
Makawiti. Professor Makawiti.
Okay, yes.
And Professor Makawiti once told me time, now I know I'll take 3 hours, 2 hours to Nairobi because the road is good. Before, he had no idea when he would reach Nairobi. That providing people with opportunity to move, goods to the market, that being certain made all the difference. And I can tell you one of the things we got that time when I was also in the vision, and Ikiara who was at Kenya, what was the name again? Where we investment
authority
can invest.
Can invest.
Can invest, yeah.
Yeah. The business, they knew that this is a predetermined if I go to do business in Kenya. One thing investors hate is under certain environments.
Thank you, thank you. Let me just come to Kent as well. He talks about the tax regime that we had there. This is the only time that we saw Kenyans were willing to pay their taxes, right? And kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea, that was a mantra. And kazi iendele. And there was flash of money, you know, in the economy. The banks were really, you know, straining at the leash to just get Kenyans to get loans positioned. And many have spoken up to it there, stationed in various corridors of the NCBD just to rope in, you know, the citizen to get taxes. In terms of that pesa mfukoni, Kibaki gave pesa mfukoni.
Yes.
Na unasema pesa ni sabuni ya roho? Yeah. And I see you came in happy because also you are a well-mannered guy. But let's talk in terms of us being here and what you've alluded to. We are not really, the food prices right now are skyrocketing. And people will point finger and say, oh, this is Russia, Ukrainian war. But this was bound to happen. We should always, be prepared with our strategic reserves. We have enough food at the end of the day, because always have a margin that has something, a buffer in there. In terms of planning, because we had the Ministry of Planning that was run by the now governor of Kakamega, Oparanya. Yes.
It was Nyayo.
Oparanya came later.
Oparanya came later. It was Nyayo who came up first of all with the National Economic Council, right?
Yes.
That really steered that particular plan. You can take us back there?
Yes.
Beginning with the Nyayo, Oparanya came on as well. And even the issue of population was huge by then, we shall discuss. But just take us there.
Okay. I think in terms of leaning or definition, I would say, if I was to describe our late president, he was very close to what we call social democracy.
Social democracy, yes.
Now, those countries professors talked about, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Iceland,
New Zealand.
These are countries that are run on social democracy.
I'm sorry to butt in, just hold on to your thoughts. We shall be having these interruptions, interspersing our conversation here with what is happening on the ground. This is State House. That will be where President Uhuru Kenyatta also will be paying his last respect about, of course, to the late President Mwai Kibaki, and then the carriage will go down to Nyayo National Stadium. But I want to take you back to Lee Funeral Home, where we began earlier with our reporter Emmanuel Tor. By then, dawn had not really broken. It was a bit dark, but now, yes, we can see morning has broken. We just want to take you back there. We're nearing 8 o'clock, so what is the preparation? What is happening on the ground on the Lee Funeral Home? Let's just cross over to Lee.
Well, thank you very much, Dibal. Of course, we have been here since morning, and of course it is a cold, chilly and gloomy morning, and this has been the environment since last Friday when President Mwai Kibaki passed on, and of course we're here and we're just waiting. In the next 10 or so minutes we'll be moving from here to State House, and remember this process is supposed to, the carriage, the procession here is supposed to move from here to State House, from State House to Nyayo National Stadium, where we'll be having the national celebrations. But for this point, those are just some of the vehicles that are here getting ready for that process, and these are the military officers who will be accompanying this vehicle. Remember, from here to State House, we'll be having the hearse, which will be carrying the body of the late Mwai Kibaki from here to State House, and then from State House, that's when we'll have the normal gun carriage that we've always seen from here to Parliament, and of course that's when we'll have also a military parade from that point to Nyayo National Stadium. And remember, we have had, there are a lot of activities as well currently happening at the Nyayo National Stadium. We expect several leaders from far and beyond who have also been invited. But right here, the Lee Funeral Home, we're just waiting for a few more minutes before we now embark on that final journey from here to State House. Remember, President Kibaki had served in the State House for 10 years as the president and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and that's why he has to be taken to the State House where he was sometime between 2002 and 2013. And also we have seen these officers, these are high-ranking officers in the military who have been of course given this special duty to be part and parcel of the process. And once the hearse comes out, once the body is loaded in, we will be seeing the outriders who are ready on standby, also getting ready to move with a convoy all the way to State House. It is about a kilometer's journey from here to the State House, and about 6 kilometers from here from State House to the Nyayo National Stadium. And those are just some of the motorbikes coming in, riders, and also some of the officers also getting ready for that process. And you're seeing those are counting about 3 hearse vehicles also coming here, and that is the family of Emilio Mwai Kibaki arriving for this process. Those are the family members who are also going to be accompanying the procession from here all the way to State House, and that is when we'll have all the full honors of this whole process, and that is where the military officers will also be taking over the process. And it has been this way since Monday, when the body of Mwai Kibaki was lying in state in Parliament, and just ensuring that Kenyans also have a chance to bid farewell to a man who has served for over 50 years in different capacities in government, and also just climbing through all that level. And it just shows the gloomy environment here. Kenyans are still mourning. We have seen flags flying at half-mast for the better part of since Friday until now, but they will be moving to their normalcy after tomorrow evening, once Mwai Kibaki is laid to rest in Othaya in Nyayo County. And of course, we wait to, of course, give you the full coverage of that process. That arrival of the family just shows that any time from now we'll be having this whole convoy moving from here to the State House, of course, for that final process. And President Uhuru Kenyatta is among, of course, some of the dignitaries who are going to receive this procession in the next 10 minutes or so. And once we get to the State House, the process which will be taking place there will take about 15 minutes. And after that, then that's where we'll be moving to Nyayo National Stadium. Lee Funeral Home has been a flurry of activities since Friday last week. And normally, when you hear a prominent person passing on, you'll see Lee Funeral Home trending and just showing the level of quality of service that they provide for the departed souls once they leave. And that is the situation right here. And we'll be giving you more details later on once we move from here to State House. Over to you, Debal.
Many thanks indeed, Emmanuel Toh. Yes, you can see we're still waiting to see that procession beginning, as Emmanuel Toh is putting it, all the way to State House. And finally at Nyayo National Stadium. I don't know, we'd run you by the program. I'll just brief you on what will be happening today, just to give you an inkling if you're joining us this morning and you had not sort of idea what will be happening today and who will be on that particular top list of the dignitaries that are joining us this morning from Nyayo National Stadium, who they've come to pay their last respects, head of state, diplomatic corps, and high government or ranking officials as well. I'll give you just a snippet of that to tell you how that program is today and run you by it so that you can follow through today. That is beginning at 8 o'clock. I'm trying to just retrieve it here so that we can continue pace. But I want to also inform you that Farah Malim has joined us. Also, we have Koigiwa Omere, who is with us as well, to just give us his views this morning. He's a rich repository of knowledge when it comes to history and how also, even from President Mwai, Jomo Kenyatta to President Mwai and Mwai Kibaki, how that different baton was passed through to those hands. I wanted just to mention that, Nyayo National Stadium, this is where we have the Requiem Mass. 8 o'clock is where members of the public are expected to have be seated by then. And we'll have musical honors and tribute from 8 o'clock. As you can see, that is the band has been preparing for that. At 9 o'clock on the nose, we'll have a solemn procession departing from State House for Nyayo, where we've given you the picture. That will be from State House to Nyayo. Right now, you can see from your split screen, we have the Lee Funeral Home. From Lee Funeral Home, we go to State House, where the solemn procession will be held. And there will be a departure there from State House to Nyayo National Stadium, where we can see also we have security details there. People are filing in. They expect to really come out in force as well to join in paying the homage and last respect to President Mwai Kibaki. We can see an aerial view there, bird's eye view of Kenyatta Avenue, where that procession will be following through and joining Uhuru Highway, going all the way to Bunyala roundabout, aerodrome, and finally at Nyayo Stadium. Now, at 10 o'clock, that is, let's say 10:10, I should say, there'll be arrival of ambassadors and high commissioners, principal secretaries. We'll have also judges of the National Assembly, senators, county governors, the cabinet, judges of the Supreme Court, and the heads of arms of government, and His Excellency the Deputy President. And then 10:20, we'll have arrival of visiting heads of state and government, and we'll get to see most of them that we've not really mentioned. Joyce Banda, the former president of Malawi, will be joining, of course, the Requiem Mass today. The president of Ethiopia has already will be joining as well. And we'll be also having Cyril Ramaphosa all the way from South Africa, amongst other heads of state. We have 10:30, arrival of His Excellency, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defence Forces, accompanied by the First Lady, Her Excellency Margaret Kenyatta. And then we'll stand on ceremony to sing the national anthem, and then the East Africa anthem as well. 10:45, the state reception of President Mwai Kibaki's funeral procession. That will be followed by Guard of Honor, the troops in line. We'll have a procession to the altar. Head of state, we have the CDF, we have the VCDF, the SVC commanders will witness the mounting of the casket on the Ketoflek, and of course paying of the last respect by visiting heads of state. That they will be given the opportunity to do that. And the state funeral service, that is a Requiem Mass in celebration of the life of President Mwai Kibaki, celebrated by His Grace Archbishop Philip Anyolo. He'll be assisted by His Grace Bishop Martin Kivuva. They will be officiating that Requiem Mass, that is a state funeral service. And we'll have also tributes that we are not given the names of who will be giving tributes after that as well. And then there'll be the retreat of the cottage of the late President Mwai Kibaki from the Nyayo National Stadium, and the national anthem will be sung from then. And then His Excellency the President leaves the Nyayo National Stadium, followed by other visiting heads of state and government. And that is just the layout of how that program looks like this morning. Right, we continue with our conversation here as soon as we have also our guest, Farah Malim and Koigi Omwere, ready. We shall hear from them this morning. But you can see right now, this is the expressway. That is the Nyayo house, and it looks deserted as it were. But this is the upper area there, because this is an aerial view. The expressway, how it's panning out, you know, right now. It has been also the legacy of President Kibaki. But this is just to give you a picture of how also our journalists, they really go out of the way to give you some of the best shots, even like today. They are mounted there to just give you an aerial view. We have drones as well, which is capturing all this, but also for photojournalists who are there to just capture the moment as well, and to give you iconic pictures that will be also laid on the dailies as well, and for you to have keepsakes as well, as far as souvenirs are concerned. I just want to remind you that the Standard also is having a very good souvenir for you, just to make sure it's a keepsake that you can stash it away for, you know, the future generation when they want to rummage through, you know, the history of his country and how pivotal he was as well. The Daily Nation as well, the People Daily, all the dailies are carrying out, you know, their tribute and homage today to the late President Mwai Kibaki. All right, let's hear from Koigi Omwere, and then also just get introductory remarks from them and Farah Malim, as I wait to hear also from, because I interrupted Kibisu, Kent Kibisu, to tell us more about that. So let's hear from Koigi Omwere.
Yes.
Good morning, sir. It's been a while since I saw you.
I know it.
And we were on the other side of the tracks.
It has been more than a while.
Yes, yes.
Actually, we have been, we have not seen each other now for nearly a year or more. Otherwise, we are fine down at Nakuru, and it's nice to know that you are also fine here. Otherwise, we are here to bury President Kibaki, who has been with us for many years. Of course, he lasted much longer than we have been able to so far. So we come to give him as best a send-off as we can. As far as I'm concerned, he was somebody I worked closely with, politically and personally. I like to point out that when I came out of detention, I was able to meet Mr. Kibaki soon after, and he gave me some money with which to buy a matatu, which was going to be my employer from detention. So it's good to be able to express gratitude for an act like that, because when you are coming from detention and you are truly run down, you have nothing to your name, everything has been taken away from you. And for somebody to stand up and give you anything, it was also risky, because the system took detainees as unemployables who should not be allowed to work anywhere. So for President Kibaki to offer to give me support was very important. Later, Mr. Kibaki would also come to my father's funeral. My father had been for 3 years in the mortuary, because we would not be, 4 of his sons had been imprisoned, and we would not be allowed to go home to bury him. But when we were finally set free and had a burial, one of the people that attended it was President Kibaki. And for that, our family has been very grateful ever since. Kibaki also visited me when I was in Oslo, exile, and he came all the way to know how we are doing and to express solidarity with us in exile, as we expressed our solidarity with the people who are struggling from Kenya. Struggling, of course, to have reforms and changes that the people needed for their happiness, as one might, for their happiness. You cannot have people being detained and have them happy at the same time. it's very difficult. Kibaki also gave me the job of an assistant minister without actually my applying for it. And it was a very pleasant surprise that somebody could get a position in the government without being consulted, which means that he had a lot of belief in me, and he expected that I would use the position as well as possible